What's up, everyone? Welcome to Sports Mecca. I'm Will Dowling. That's Ryan Schumpert. First off, we would like to give our thoughts and prayers to Reggie Cobb and his family as Cobb suffered a heart attack and passed away at the age of 51. Cobb, one of the best running backs in Tennessee football history. Our thoughts and prayers with his family. But now let's dive into the 2019 Tennessee football season. Year 2 under Jeremy Pruitt, coming off a 5-7 season. Ryan, expectations. What do you got?
Well, I think the first thing, absolutely, is they got to make it back to a bowl game. There's still a ton of deficiencies on this team. They're not the most talented. The rebuild, still not anywhere close to being done. But the schedule's a little bit easier this year. Everyone's had a year in Jeremy Pruitt's system to be comfortable. They know what to expect out of Coach Pruitt. And I think making it back to a bowl game, whether it means 6, 7, maybe even 8 regular season wins, would be the expectation for year 2.
Yeah, it's a good expectation. I like that. Bowl game is number one, especially in the SEC. Your high-profile coach like Jeremy Pruitt. You have offensive starters like Marquez Callaway, Jarrett Garantano, Ty Chandler, Dominic Wood-Anderson. The names go on. This offense is stacked with talent. They just have to get over that hump and finish games off. I like it with Jim Chaney, probably the biggest head coach or biggest coach to get hired this offseason to the Tennessee football staff. Pro style, I formation, fullback. I like Chaney. What do you think about him?
I think that was an exceptional hire for many different reasons. He's a guy that he's not going to be compelled to go leave to take a head coaching job. He's going to be here for the long haul. He's got great experience in this league and other places. Very good quarterback coach. Has had a lot of great quarterbacks. We've seen what he's done with guys like Nathan Peterman, at Pittsburgh when he was at Tennessee and struggled. So I think he's the exact type of guy that Pruitt needs to kind of take control of the offense. Pruitt is a defensive coach, does not need to be worrying about that side of the ball like I think he was a year ago with Tyson Helton.
Yeah, we saw in his press conference at the Orange and White game, he didn't even know Juwan Jennings had 2 touchdown passes. He's so worried about the defensive side, he's letting Jim Chaney take over on the offensive side completely. And I think that's what Jim Chaney wanted when he came to the university. He wanted total control. He's making the money for it. He wanted total control of this offense, and I like that for him. Pro-style offense, like I said, a lot better than what Tyson Helton had last season. So now that we've talked about our expectations, it's Tennessee football. We have to have our concerns. I mean, it's just Tennessee football. Concerns come with it. Give me your biggest concern you have for this football season heading into the August season.
I think the concern has to be on the line of scrimmage, both sides, but I'm going to go specifically to the defensive line. You lost your 3 starters last year who played a lot of snaps for you, and Kyle Phillips, Shai Tuttle, and Alexis Johnson. And that leaves a bunch of young guys who haven't played much. You see, I think maybe the most talented guy on that line of scrimmage is going to be Aubrey Solomon, the transfer from Michigan, but he's not even eligible yet for sure. They're still going through that NCAA waiver process. You have some other guys like, Karat Garland, Emmett Gooden, played some last year. Some guys that played a little bit of snaps, but not a lot, are going to be relied on to play heavy snaps this year. Got guys transferring in like Darrell Middleton, JUCO transfer, Savion Williams, the JUCO transfer. You never know what you're going to get from those guys, and they are relying on them to be able to come in and make a difference from day one when they get on campus, and that's definitely a concern for this team. A lot of guys who have not played a lot of snaps.
Yeah, Savion Williams' Twitter name is QB's worst nightmare. That's exactly what the Vols need. Rush the quarterback, get pressure on these quarterbacks, because we've seen quarterbacks like Jake Fromm. You get pressure on him, get him away from the pocket. He is a lot of trouble. So now my biggest concern, honestly, is the offensive line depth. We have good starters, but who comes after these guys? Wyatt Morris is enrolling coming in as a freshman. He'll start, obviously. Yamir Johnson more than likely is going to take over Trey Smith's job, unless Trey Smith can, get healthy with his blood clots in his lungs. Still on blood thinners. We wish him the best, of course. Brandon Kennedy comes back from a torn ACL. Center, very important position always. Yamir Johnson, like I said, taking over Trey Smith on that left side of the ball, the quarterback's blind side. We've seen Jarrett Garantano take a beating last year. So I really want to see Yamir Johnson really step up. Darnell Wright is enrolling this summer. He'll have an opportunity to take over that right tackle position. So depth. You're playing in the SEC. You have to have depth in the trenches. That's what I'm worried about the most with this Tennessee offensive line. So protect Garantano. You get Garantano some time. As we saw in the Auburn game, our offensive line did a pretty good job holding off the Auburn defensive front. He was able to throw for 326 yards and close to 4 touchdowns. Yeah. So offensive line depth is definitely my biggest concern.
Yeah, I would that's definitely a very fair concern right there. And one thing you're going to see with the offensive line is that these tackles are going to be true freshmen, and true freshmen are difficult to play in this league. and especially on the offensive line, and especially at offensive tackle. It's just the most important part behind the quarterback, in my opinion, on the offense. And, some guys obviously weren't there, but in the spring game, so you can only take so much, but not a lot of glowing, reviews in the spring game. Gorentano was under pressure a lot. They only averaged about 3 yards a carry. They didn't seem like they made that step between November and April. Now we'll see. They still have a couple more months. A couple of guys get there, help them out, but definitely not the best in the spring game, and they're going to have to improve a lot going into August and September.
Yeah, so let's get away from the negatives. I can't do this anymore. Biggest strength, happiest part about this Tennessee football team that we can actually look forward to?
I really think it's going to be the receiving core. You have kind of the opposite of defensive line, a lot of guys that have played a lot of snaps. Josh Palmer was good last year. You heard some glowing reviews from him in the spring game. From spring practice, he did some good things in the spring game. Juwan Jennings, I don't think he was ever fully healthy last year coming back from his injury the season before, but he's going to be a guy that you've seen what he can do, the plays he can make in big moments. And Marquez Callaway, he has his deficiencies, but he's still a guy who can go up and win a jump ball one-on-one with you, and that's just a unit I think is going to be very good for this team. And they all have some kind of similar, skill sets. There's not that super quick guy, Jordan Murphy may be that, but we haven't seen enough from him to really think that. I'm really interested to see what Jim Chaney does with those guys. Is creative, how he can get them the ball in different ways, and I think that's going to really help Gorentano out, get the ball out quick, find your playmakers, especially with that struggling offensive line.
Yeah, you said it. The jump ball, Marquez Callaway, Juwan Jennings, two of the toughest wide receivers that honestly I've seen in a very long time. They're able to go up there and get those high-end balls that sometimes you don't even think they're going to be caught. So I really like what you said, the wide receiver core. I'm going to switch it over to the other side of the ball. I think our biggest strength heading into the season is our secondary with new coach Derek Ansley. Coming in from the Raiders, you have Alontae Taylor, all SEC, Bryce Thompson, playmaker, ball hawk, Trayvon Flowers, and we also have true freshman Jalen McCullough coming in, who had 2 interceptions in the orange and white game. I love this secondary. A lot of aggressive ball makers on that side of the ball. It's just going to be a fun way to see. We haven't had a good secondary, in a very long time here at UT. A lot of young talent. Nigel Warrior, the leader of the bunch. Really excited to see what he brings to the table, being the leader, senior. We're going to see if he gets drafted this next offseason. But I'm just so excited for the secondary, man. It's going to be a fun one.
Absolutely, and I think that's Jeremy Pruitt's defense right there. As he says, you got to have the secondary. He wants to play press with those corners, and then you can do everything else. You can blitz. You can get creative everywhere else when you got guys that can guard. And I think it's very encouraging. Bryce Thompson, obviously, like you mentioned, all SEC freshman last year. Alontae Taylor had a great season. He's a great player. I worry a little bit about the depth. After that, at corner, what do you have? Marco Osborne transferred. Sean Schamberger seemed like he was in the doghouse for much of last year. And, Nigel Warrior's got that one safety spot locked down. Who plays the other one? Who plays in the nickel?
Balin Buchanan.
Yeah, Balin Buchanan, obviously a great chance to play some minutes. So it'll be interesting to see. I think those top 3 guys are good players, especially I'm a big fan of Thompson and Taylor, to see what they're going to do with Ansley, a full year in the weight room. I'm just a little bit more concerned about the depth from that squad, whereas on offense, you can receiver, you can trot 3 or 4 guys out there, and they can play nearly every snap.
Yeah, just give Gorentano some time to throw the ball like we talked about with the offensive line, and those receivers that you mentioned will make plays.